Okay. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the #CAPS special program. We are here due to the leadership and guidance of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Theta Pi Omega Chapter, in service to Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester County since 1967. We'd like to thank our dear chapter president, Sharon Hobson, and Vice President of Programs, Tanya Jackson, for their guidance. My name is Kiana Wilson, and I, along with Danielle Lewis, who's on the call today, are leading the #CAP sessions. So #CAP stands for College Admissions Process, and our job is to demystify the college admissions process, simply put. You see, we help our young scholars gain admission to college, and we help them to enroll. That's what success looks like to our team here at Theta Pi Omega Chapter. So in partnership with HBCU for Life, led by Mrs. Olivia Baxter and Mrs. Adrienne Wooden, we have quite an exciting presentation for you. Now, for all of you joining us live today, in order to protect the likeness of our students on this platform, we've asked our scholars not to share their video and to put all of their questions into the chat room. So as the moderator, I'll ask those questions to our special guest. So sit back, relax, and learn with us as we begin our presentation. But first, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Olivia Baxter, who will introduce our speaker. Mrs. Olivia Baxter, take it away.
Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to introduce Dr. Harriel Williams. For the last 8 years, Dr. Harriel Williams has served as president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is located in Washington, D.C. Thurgood Marshall College Fund supports HBCUs and predominantly Black institutions that supports over 300,000 students. Previous to taking that position, he was the 10th president of Delaware State University, serving 18 months as the institution provost and vice president of academic affairs. While at Delaware State University, he made it a priority to engage the faculty, staff, students, alumni, and the community members by giving each a role to play in the success story of the university. He became well known throughout the state and beyond for his friend-raising, and I'm going to say that again, friend-raising efforts and his success in focusing attention on the many outstanding achievements of Delaware State University. During his tenure as president of Delaware State, when he started, the enrollment was about 3,819. But before he left, the enrollment was up to almost 5,000 students. Prior to his arrival at Delaware State University, Dr. Williams served as the University of North Carolina's general admission as interim associate vice president for academic affairs, an interim senior associate for vice president for academic and student affairs. He remained in that latter position until he became the president of Delaware State. Dr. Williams also progressed from associate director to associate vice chancellor post in the areas of academic affairs, enrollment, and diversity at Appalachian State University from 1988 to 2000 and from 2004 to 2007. He was the interim director of admissions at North Carolina A&T University from 2000 to 2004. In addition, Dr. Williams also served from 2000 to 2008 as a national marketing recruitment associate consultant with Noel Levitz, the top national consultation firm for enrollment and management solutions in the country. Dr. Williams has a Bachelor of Science, Communication, Broadcasting, and Master of Arts, Educational Media, both from Appalachian State University, as well as an ED, Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis from East Tennessee State University. As an athlete, Dr. Williams competed as an undergraduate in track and cross country at Appalachian State University. He continues to stay in shape with morning runs for 4 miles, 5 days a week. Can you believe that? He is married to my dear friend, Dr. Robin S. Williams. They have 2 children and grandchildren. They now live in Washington, D.C. I'm elated to have Dr. Williams on the program with us today, and I'm now going to turn the program over to him. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for being on the program today.
Thank you, Ms. Baxter, for that wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today, and I'm actually excited about the conversation that we're going to have, because we're going to be talking to students who are thinking about and hopefully planning on going to college. And so what I want to spend some time and answering your questions as it relates to the process. I heard that you had a previous meeting leading up to this one, talking about the admissions process, and I want to spend some time there. But before I do that, I want to just give the students just a high-level overview about the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and what that fund represents. And also, I want the students to pay attention and listen to what I'm getting ready to say, because this organization was created primarily for you. And I want you to understand that, and you'll get a clear picture of that later on throughout the presentation. But the Thurgood Marshall College Fund is an organization that was set up 33 years ago with the sole purpose and focus to support African-American students attending our historically Black colleges and universities, and our public HBCUs in particular, and the predominantly Black institutions that have converted from predominantly white to predominantly Black, Chicago State being one. And so we represent those institutions. You might say, why do we have Thurgood Marshall's name attached to this organization? Well, I want you all to know that, and I'm sure you know this, but I'm going to reinforce this. Thurgood Marshall was probably one of the greatest Supreme Court justices to ever live. And he graduated from 2 of our HBCUs. He graduated #1 in his class at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. And then he went on to Howard University Law and graduated there. And he has argued probably more than any other justice before, leading up to that, before the Supreme Court, and winning. And he has argued cases that has been, I would classify as transformational in this country. Without Thurgood Marshall, we wouldn't have our schools integrated right now. He was on the major landmark decision, 1954 decision, Brown versus Topeka, Kansas, which was the major Supreme Court decision that basically said that it was illegal to have separate colleges, separate public schools where students would attend, because it was the law of the land, where Black students could not attend white institutions. And so Thurgood Marshall was responsible for that major landmark decision. And so when our founder, Dr. Joyce Payne, approached Justice Marshall about creating an organization that would focus solely on historically Black colleges and universities, he didn't hesitate about saying, yes, I will lend my name to this organization. And he personally was engaged with the organization. And 33 years later, by using Thurgood Marshall name, this organization, we have been able to raise close to $500 million to support our institutions, support our students. And that is important for you to know. These scholarships are set up so that you can move through and graduate without having a lot of debt at the end of the process. Another thing I want our students to get a clear understanding and hear me say this. Without HBCUs, there would be no Black middle class today.
That's right.
Let me say that again.
Right.
Without HBCUs, there would be no Black middle class today.
That's right.
HBCUs produced all of our professional occupations, doctors, lawyers. I mean, our campuses had those and still do have those facilities and training our students. We, HBCUs, were created. And again, I go back and I say it was created for you in mind. And what I mean by that, if you want to be a doctor, you can go to an HBCU. If you want to be a lawyer, you can go to an HBCU. If you want to be an engineer, you can go to an HBCU. You want to be a nurse, you can go to, you name the profession, you can attend an HBCU. And it's because of the HBCUs, our students now have wide variety of choices in terms of institutions of higher learning. But it's the HBCUs that was the foundation that made that possible. One thing you have to do is go and ask your grandmother or grandfather or great-grandmother or great-grandfather. There's going to be somebody in that line that attended an HBCU.
Right.
And that right there was the essence and the beginning of creating a Black middle class for our country. So we need HBCUs. We need you to attend HBCUs. It's important for you to understand that. So when you're going through the process, right now, we have in this country 101 HBCUs. The majority of HBCUs are public HBCUs. And about 80% of the students attend the public HBCUs. But there are 37 private HBCUs. And you're sure you heard of Spelman, Morehouse, et cetera. Private HBCUs are represented by the United Negro College Fund. We are partners in this, but they represent the private HBCUs, but we represent the public HBCUs. So when we go to Congress, and as Ms. Baxter indicated, we're based in Washington, D.C. And the reason why we're based here in Washington, D.C. is because we have a government relations arm that's responsible for going to Congress to make sure our schools are represented and that we get the resources for our institution. And organizations like AKA play a critical role in supporting HBCUs, a critical role in supporting HBCUs. And if you go and look at the history of our Greek organizations, most of them, with the exception of one, Alpha Phi Alpha, and I'm an Alpha, was founded on a white campus. But the majority of the Divine Nine, they were on HBCU campuses.
Right.
And so, but the bottom line there, these great organizations are still today supporting our colleges and universities. We just partnered with the Links Incorporated, right. And Ms. Baxter was a major part of that, where we raised over $100,000 within a month to support 13 of our HBCUs. That's the type of support, AKA at the national level, their national president is a president at one of our institutions at Tennessee State University. President Glover has made it part of her campaign to go out and raise money to support HBCUs. And the AKAs have led the way. They have led the way for other Greek organizations to get involved. Actually, I use the AKAs as an example to my Alpha Phi Alpha brothers to get them to give money. And I said, and they did. But we're not giving the money like the AKAs, but the bottom line, organizations that like this will support you and provide you with what you need in terms of making sure that you graduate from college. A large percentage of our students who go to our institutions, they're the first ones in their family to go to college. And when you're the first one in your family and you're breaking what we call barriers, and you're breaking those barriers, sometimes it can be difficult and sometimes it can be hard. And you need partners like AKAs, like the Links, like the KA Psi. You just name the organization to wrap their arms around you to say, hey, we're here for you. We're here to provide you with that support that you need when you're in school, because you're going to need that type of support. So I want to just give you that overview, that high level overview about the importance of this organization and what it's doing to support our institutions, support our students. It was mentioned in part of my resume that I worked at North Carolina A&T State University before moving on, becoming a college president at Delaware State. My job at North Carolina A&T, and by the way, North Carolina A&T is the largest historically Black college and university in the country.
Yes.
Over 13,000 students attend North Carolina A&T. They have this thing down there where they call Aggie Pride. You hear me saying that all the time. There's pride associated with being a graduate of North Carolina A&T. But I was the admissions director there. So those of you who are thinking about college, I want to take a minute to kind of give you some insight in terms of what people are thinking about at this time, especially high school students. Now's the time to apply. You should be applying right now. Actually, you should be getting your acceptance letter right now, right before Christmas. Majority of the students that are thinking about going to college for next year, they would already go, they started that process in September. And then by the time they come to December, you have your application in and you have your admissions award letter. The purpose of that is because once the school receives your information, now they can start looking at what you might qualify for as it relates for scholarships. Scholarships, that's an important function of being in school so that you can get those resources, so that you can apply in a timely manner. The official commitment date, and the students who are up here, I want you to write this down. It's important for you to know this. The official commitment date is May 1. You have to know where you're going to attend by May 1. May 1, most schools will have their class met. And as after May 1, then you end up running into some really tight situations in terms of trying to find resources. Most of the resources will be gone by then. So therefore, you can get your application, get it in now, start that process. In January, when you go back, you make sure it's completed. And once it's completed, then you wait and you get your acceptance letter. Now they're doing the acceptance virtually. So you sit by your computer and wait for your email to bing so you can get your acceptance letter. But I encourage you to do that really soon because it will help you in terms of that overall process of getting ready. And then once you go through that process, and then some schools will require you to do interviews, and then you'll be ready for those opportunities there. So when you go to school, I want you also to recognize that you, in identifying one of your careers that you may want to start in, it's important to put that down on your application. If you don't know, that's okay. They have people there that can help you and to provide you with some guidance along the way. But I just wanted you to know that it's very, very important for you to start that process right now. I'm selfish. I want you to attend an HBCU. But if you don't, I still want you to go to college. There's nothing more important than going to college. Nothing more important than going to college right now. We need you there. We need you preparing because all of the jobs that are out there right now, they're going to be requiring a higher degree of education. High school is great that you will be able to get a job, but the stats are very clear on those who have four-year degrees. Their income increased significantly. And one of the things that we need to do in this country, more specifically for African Americans, is try to increase the wealth gap for African Americans. And by attending college and by graduating from college and by moving forward into a career that's going to allow you to buy your first home, that's going to allow you to have some investments, and that's going to create this wealth for you. That's why I'm a strong proponent of our students going to college. I want you to come to an HBCU, but overall, I want you to go to a college or a university, and I want you to get a degree. And then once you get that first degree, then you would have to decide on whether or not you want to get an advanced degree. But most of our jobs and opportunities will let you get some solid opportunities there. One thing about the Thurgood Marshall, and I'm gonna open it up for questions. One thing I would encourage you to do is go to the Thurgood Marshall website. That's tmcf.org. tmcf.org. Go to the website. We have a list of scholarships for our students. We have a list of scholarships for students who are going to major in the science areas, who are going to major in technology, mathematics, you name it. We have programs up there for you, specifically for you. So go and look at those scholarship opportunities. But another thing that I want you to be aware of, by being a part of TMCF, you have to be at an HBCU, first of all, in order to be a part of TMCF, and you have to be a part, and actually some of our students attend the private HBCU. So we work with all 101 in terms of creating opportunities for our students. And we have what we call internship opportunities. And I want you to kind of get an understanding of this, students. And so part of going to preparing for your first major job is gaining experience. And so what we are encouraging students right in your freshman year, try to find an internship. An internship will help you so when you graduate, you'll have some experience on your resume. Use organizations like AKA, because there are professionals here that can provide you with what we call door openers. They can open the door for you. And by allowing them to open the door, this will allow you to showcase your talent. What we do at TMCF, we provide students with major internship opportunities because our corporate partners, number one, they want diversity. And number two, they want Black diversity. And they will tell you that. That's what they're telling us. And they want students. They want talent because they know that talent exists within the African American community. And we have it. We have the talent on our campuses. So people will pay for your talent, but you have to be prepared and you have to go through the right steps for that. So what I'm going to do right now is pause and allow for the students or anyone, if you have any questions as it relates to what I've just shared, or if you have questions about the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. So much really valuable information. You just dropped a lot of jewels for our young scholars. And as a graduate of an HBCU, I attended Howard University. I couldn't be more proud to hear you talk to our group. I'm just really overjoyed that you're even here, so thank you. I do have a couple questions and I'll go ahead and ask. Here's one here. It says, how can we continue to give back to HBCUs right now in this space? How do we give back to HBCUs so they can continue to be successful?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And Kiana, for your information, my oldest son graduated from Howard, and my youngest son is a junior at Howard right now. So we are connected with Howard, and
that's wonderful.
Both of my boys accused my wife and I of following them to Washington, D.C. Because we were working at Delaware State when he enrolled at Howard. So and my job transferred down to D.C. So to your question, and that's a very good question. The one thing that we need probably more than anything, our HBCUs, and I'm talking specifically from the seat of being a college president on one of our campus, we need your engagement. We need your positive interaction with our campus. We need our alums to stay connected to our institutions, and we need you to give back. And we also need you to give back financially. And I think one of the things that we have discovered during this pandemic, people have doubled down in their support of HBCUs. This has been an incredible year. You take the pandemic, where it has disproportionately impacted the African-American community, and it just showcased, it just put a magnifying glass on the health disparities that exist in our community. And then you add George Floyd on top of that with Breonna Taylor, all that just kind of converged at one time. And so this country has been forced to deal with some of the things that's been existing for a long time in our country, which is race. And what we have seen from corporate America, and I'm talking firsthand here, they have doubled down in their openness and willingness to support HBCUs. We have seen it. We have seen it not only in the form of resources, but we have seen it in the form of commitments that they have made to guarantee that internships will happen for our schools. Some of our institutions, you've seen it, broadcasts have received record, Howard including, record giving from corporate America during this time because they recognize it. We worked with the Bloomberg Foundation when they were trying to do something significant, and we were able to with UNCF and TMCF, and they said they want to create more Black doctors. And we provided them with the data to say, look, if you want to get Black doctors, you got to go to Black medical schools. And we have them here. We have Howard, we have Meharry in Nashville, and we have Morehouse School of Medicine, and we have Charles Drew. The Bloomberg Foundation made $100 million investment into HBCUs for medical doctors. And he was very clear. He said, we want to have African-American doctors that attend these institutions because it's important. And it's very important now when you look at this vaccine that's coming out and the confidence that we have in having someone when you walk into a doctor's office that look like you, will understand you. That makes a major difference in terms of trust from that perspective. So your question is a very good question, and it's important for you to stay connected. I know one of the things that sometimes happen on our campus, and I've been associated with HBCUs now for over 30 years. Sometimes our alums get upset with our institutions for some reason or another, and especially when they're there. And they get upset because maybe their paperwork didn't get processed in a timely manner. Then you remember those little bitty things. You say, I'm not going to ever give anything when I leave here. But I want, if you're listening out there and you're one of those, and if you have a job, you need to think about your institutions that helped you get that job in terms of the name that provided you with that. And it's important to be able to give back to those. The reason why a lot of our historically white institutions are thriving is because their alumni, they give back very candidly. They give back to their institutions when they make it. And we have a lot of successful African Americans that are out there, and they are doing the same thing. But more of that, I think, is needed. And that engagement piece is very, very important. Another thing that was very important for the enrollment piece, and I know you talked about a session with enrollment, the fraternities and sororities, some of them do what we call these spring open house tours, where they travel all over the country. They sponsor these events so they can expose the next generation to HBCUs. And those are ways of, that's a very, very, very practical way of giving back and allowing the students, this generation, to be able to understand what you went through as far as the emotional attachment to your institution, and how that you can't explain that. You just can't explain it. It's just something that you gotta experience from that perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Williams, one thing you just touched on was just the emotional connection that we have to our institutions. So a question did come through, and it said, what's the future of HBCUs with the impact of this pandemic?
Well, I can report great news that the future is very bright. The future is bright because we have been able to really get a whole different perspective around the value of HBCUs for the country. To be very clear on this, we have been working hand in hand with the Biden transition team. One of our presidents, the president of Delaware State right now, is currently will be the chair of the inauguration committee. And we've had conversations with the team, and we are very confident that this administration will make significant investments in HBCUs. Matter of fact, Biden has gone on record, and we have reminded his team about that they said that part of their HBCU plan, for the first time ever in the history of presidential politics, and we have never had candidates to have on their platform an HBCU platform. Every single Democratic candidate had an HBCU platform in terms of what they're going to do. And that right there should give you some confidence to know the importance of these institutions. Actually, I'm getting chill bumps thinking about that, because it's so powerful to know. And we were on a call with the transition team, and I reminded them in a very nice way that they made a commitment of $1 billion that they're going to invest over time in HBCUs. I'm very confident that will happen, and we will. And so the future is extremely bright. I think you're going to see more students attending HBCUs than you've ever seen students to attend, than you've ever witnessed, mainly because number one, the reality, you can get a quality education at our HBCUs. You can go to any one of our HBCUs and they can take you anywhere you want to go in the world, anywhere. I mean, you can go to the smallest HBCU that we have or to the largest HBCU and graduate. And I can guarantee you education and you will be prepared to compete with anybody in the world. And you'll be able to compete. If you need to go to professional schools at another institution, you'll be able to compete there from that perspective. And I've seen that firsthand, and I know that in terms of that process. So the future is exciting, is bright, and I just think the excitement is just kind of just riding now. I told someone the other day, I said, we just need to ride this thing, keep riding it. Just keep riding it because it's great. So,
so speaking of future, I have a question for one of our futures that's in the room right now. Did you know what you wanted to study when you first went to school?
Actually, I did. When I wanted to be a broadcast major. I wanted to study communications. So if you don't know, that's okay. But if you think about the people that are around you and you think about their careers and you go talk to them. You go talk to them tell me about what you're doing. Tell me about your job. Tell me about that. That's how you learn about different things that you may want to go and study. And that will help you throughout that process. We like for students to have a good idea of what they want to do, because what that will allow you to do is when you come into college, it will allow you to be focused. And when you're focused, it'll give you a path, a track to go down, which will help you navigate. But again, there are people at our institutions that will help you find your way through that process if you don't know. But we do want you to think about the different professions, the career opportunities. My son told me the other day, he reminded me of when he's at Howard, he's a supply chain manager, and he had a major, and he did an internship this past summer. And someone asked him a question, so how did you find your major? And he said, well, I was home one day and my dad came home, and I don't remember this. My dad came home and said, what are you doing today? And it was summertime. He was sitting on the couch watching TV. I said, when I come home, when I come home, you better have a major. So go find something now. So go study and find one. He said, so he went and started looking up majors and said supply chain was interesting. And that's why he selected supply chain.
That's awesome.
I don't know if I believe that.
That's awesome.
I don't know if I did that or not, but he said I did that.
Another question that came up was, speaking of internships, during the pandemic, where do we find internships? Because our #CAP leaders are always telling us we need to find internships. How do we do it?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Most organizations, for an example, corporations, they have switched their internships to virtual internships. And so like all of our internships this past year, we had students who did internships with Boeing. We had students who did internships with Ally. We had students who did internships with Apple. We had students who did internships with Atria. All of our corporate, Wells Fargo, all of our corporate partners, they pivoted and they adjusted. And so they were allowed to do their internship virtually. And they will continue to do that for those who especially if you start your freshman year. It sometimes can be very hard for a freshman to find an internship, but you can do it. But it requires you to kind of go that extra step in the process. I think it's important for you to think about when you go back home after your first year, and I'm with students, I want you to hear me right here. Your freshman year, you're gonna be so focused on your school, but you also gotta understand when you go back home in the summertime, you need to make sure you got some type of activity back home when you get there. And you start planning that your freshman year, right when you first start, you start thinking about that. So what I'm going to do in the summer, what I'm going to do in the summer. Don't wait until the summertime come and say, wow, what I got to get a job. No, you can start planning that right now. Most of our corporations that we partner with, they've already selected their interns for the summer already. So that because they're getting ready for the summer cycle from that standpoint. So when you start your freshman year, even though you're gonna have a lot going on in your freshman year, keep that in the back of your mind too, in terms of that process of finding an internship. And you can go to your career service office and push them. But a lot of it will come through connections and networking with organizations like this, and being persistent, and being, just getting up and being an eager beaver. One thing that my son, and I want the students to hear me on this. One thing I told my son when he got his first job, I said, he was working in a summer camp. And I said, you need to make sure you're the first one there. And when you get there, you're running there. You're not walking, you're running to get to work. And I said, someone's going to see that. And they're going to say, that person, I want that guy on my team. I want him on my team because because people are going to be watching you throughout this process. So when you get that first internship, you got to be so eager. You got to be excited about it. And they're gonna say, hey, I want that person on my team. Mm-hmm. And when someone wants you on their team, you're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna want you on their team. So one of the advice I would give to the young people is that when you get that job, when you get that internship, when you get that job, even that first job, I don't care what it is, you put energy behind it, not that walking slow, taking it easy. No, you put that energy behind it. And what he did in summer camp, his job was to fill the water coolers. That was it. I said, you better run to fill those water coolers and make sure they're ready when the people get to the sideline.
Be the best at filling those water coolers.
But it's those little bitty things though that we don't think about. It's important that people do think about, and people who are in authority who make decisions are watching from that perspective.
That's right. Okay. We have quite a few more questions. I hope that you are. I hope you have some time. We have a couple more questions. So, what other tips can you give to freshmen to make sure that they are more successful during their first year?
The biggest tip I can give any of our freshman students, and I've dealt with a lot of them, is, and this is going to be hard for you, is called time management and figuring out your time. Because you're going to have more time on your hand than you've ever had in your life. You're going to be free. You're going to think you're going to be free. You're not going to have mom, you're not going to have dad watching over you. And you're going to have a bunch of people trying to tell you, come on, let's go and hang out. Let's go do this. And you're going to have to be making those decisions, but you still got to study and you got to balance that. One of the things, so if one of the things we look for when I was an admissions director, the key thing that I look for in a transcript, believe it or not, and this is what they're doing right now, I look at your grade point average. I don't pay attention to your SAT. That's not a major factor for me in terms of, it's okay if you just got a nice SAT, but if you got a 3.5 GPA or a 4.0 GPA, that tells a lot about you. And what that tells me is that you know how to organize and you know how to plan and you know how to study. And so those tips like that, by looking at that, so when you get into college, and most high schools have kind of transitioned to a semester type process to kind of give you a feel for what college is going to be like. So the biggest thing is kind of managing your time and start out, and this is important, start out with a very good GPA your first semester. Because once you get a good GPA, when I say GPA, a good GPA 3.0 or higher, it's hard to bring it down once you get it up. And if it's a low one, it's hard to bring it up. So if you start out that and look at your courses, you don't have to take all the hard classes the first semester. Take an average course load so you can get that 3.5, and then you build on top of that, and you build on top of that. And if you do that, then everything else will kind of fall into place from that perspective. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because I give my wife credit for this because she's the one that drilled that into our two boys. And so both of them, they had a routine about studying because she made that part of the process. So when they went to college, it was already drilled in. You know what that scripture say, you train a child in the way they should grow, and when they leave, they won't depart from those ways. That is actually true. Because even when you're not there, my son will always say that the reason why he did his homework because he heard his mother in his ear at school, even though she wasn't even there, because he didn't want to deal with that. He didn't want to deal with that process. So I think, and so both of them, Austin graduated with a 3.6 from Howard, and Gavin right now is at a 3.5 right now at Howard, and they're both business majors. But it's all that routine. So I'm just giving you some tips about that, and that thing, it works.
And I'll tell you one thing.
Yep.
Howard University School of Business is no joke. So to get that kind of a GPA at Howard University School of Business is phenomenal. You clearly have done the job as a parent. So congratulations to you and your wife.
I'll give Robin credit, not me. I'm not going to claim that. I'm not claiming that one.
I'm gonna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna ask our president to give some closing remarks. But this one was one that seems to be repetitive, so it's going to be a little layered here, and it's about scholarships. So can you remind our group of where to find scholarships? And then also, here's a question. I was told that there are scholarships that no one applies to. How do I know where they are? And let's see. Oh, I guess we can just stop there. And then any final remarks you want to offer for these students? Thank you.
Yeah, and yes, I would be more than happy to come back anytime if you invite me back. If it's another, I'll be more than happy to do that. And the point around scholarships, what I would, again, tmcf.org, tmcf.org. Most of our scholarships require that you have at least a 3.0 grade point average. And most scholarships, academic scholarships, will require that you have a 3.0 or higher from that perspective. And so what I would encourage, and to your question about there are a lot of scholarships out there, yes, there are a lot of scholarships out there. And there are websites that you go to and all that. But that's you just gotta be able to put a lot of time and effort in that. But the real meat of it, when you find the institution where you're going to attend, that's when you start focus on that institution and the scholarships that they have. For example, Howard University, they probably have one of the best scholarship packages for students than any other institution I've seen. And you have to get it all in by December, though. You have to get everything in early. You have to go through the website. You got to go through the campus website and look at their scholarship offerings that they have out there. That's what you got to do. You got to spend the time on the campus. And that early process I mentioned again to you, by applying early, it gives you that time to shop around. That's why they said you get your application in. When you go back in September and October, they see your credentials, then you start negotiating. You start shopping around from school to school. But if you wait until May to apply, it's just not going to, nothing's going to be out there. If they have stuff, it's going to be really small, and they're going to say, well, you should have applied early. So now I'm glad we're having this talk today in December, but I would encourage you to, if you haven't done it, to get on that right away. You still got time to do that, but the sooner you get that process moving, the better from a scholarship perspective. And I would really, really encourage you to make that happen. And there's a question, real quick, a question about the difference between early decision and regular decision. Early decision are those students, those institutions, those we call those elite institutions. They have what they call, because they are notifying, like Howard right now, they have an early decision process where they're notifying all their top students right now. They'll get a little package in the mail, and it'll be like a Christmas package that they will receive. So and they get an
Very
early.
factual. That's what happens to me.
I know that's so but you get that. So but regular decision is where where institutions are notifying students like every 4 weeks. It's on a rotation basis. So if you apply now, some institutions will have a date on their application when, say, if you apply by this date here, you will hear by that date. So that's the difference from there. But the early process, again, the top students, they usually get their applications in really, really early because they're navigating, because they're gonna have a wide variety of choices, because people want you. They're gonna want to grab you. And that's something for you to know. So it's been great talking to y'all today. I've enjoyed it. I love talking to organizations like the AKA because I know you are doing some great things in our community. And I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for supporting our institutions. And we can't do this without you. So thank you.
Okay, first and foremost, I do want to just bring you greetings on the behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Theta Pi Mega Chapter, our first Vice President, Tanya Jackson, who's over our programs, our second Vice President, who's actually on, who is our President-elect, Mrs. Minretta McFadden, the hashtag committee, which is Mrs. Kiana Wilson and Danielle Lewis, who are our co-chairmen, and Olivia Baxter for HBCU Life, who's our chairman, and our co-chairman, Adrian Wooden, and also the members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Theta Pi Mega Chapter, over 240 members. I just want to say a special thank you to Dr. Williams for your wealth of information given today, as well as the history on HBCUs. Our children need to hear that every day. Many of us have graduated from HBCUs. A few of us are on the line today. I am a proud graduate of Morgan State University, class of 1987. I was always going to an HBCU. They were my only choices because I grew up in a family where it was taught. You know, I could have gone to a predominantly white institution. However, during my years of elementary school into high school, I went to predominantly white. So I had an opportunity to go to a HBCU, which shaped my life tremendously. And it made me the woman that I am today. So I thank you for sharing that with our students this afternoon. Did any other HBCU graduates want to say something before I really finish out? Because I know we have a few that are on the line, and I don't want to steal everybody's thunder if you wanted to say something. No, I know Mrs. Wilson already did, Howard graduate. Did you want to say something, Mrs. Baxter, real quick?
Oh, I attended Virginia Union University.
Panthers.
I love my HBCU. I am the president of my New Jersey alumni chapter, Samuel DeWitt Proctor chapter. So I support HBCUs through actually through Virginia Union, through the links, through the AKAs. I support HBCUs. They made my life different. And I was the first in my family to go to college. And since then, I had a couple of siblings to go to college. And then my nieces and nephews have followed suit. And they have all gone to HBCUs too. So I love HBCUs. They changed our whole family pattern.
Well, I am also a proud graduate of an HBCU, Cheney State University. And I just can't say enough about HBCUs. My oldest son is also a graduate of an HBCU. He went to Morehouse. And so what you said, Dr. Williams, about the early admission and getting all of that information in is so true, because he's, I'm not going to say how old he is because then you'll know my age, but I remember all those years ago when all of those things came in right before Christmas, and it was a wonderful, wonderful feeling to have all of those acceptances come in. The GPA information that you shared with our students, that your wife drilled into your sons, is so, so true, because once you get a high score, like you said, it's hard to bring it down. And then the other point that I just wanted to say was that internship. That's also very, very important. So I support HBCUs, and I'm just happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for sharing with our students and with the members of Theta Pi Omega chapter. Thank you.
I see a link.
I'll give a shout out to my HBCU as well, because I actually was applauding early on, Dr. Williams. I'm a proud graduate of Lincoln University, where of course Thurgood Marshall was in the class of 1930. So I was very, very happy to give a little hand wave for that. But my entire family, my husband and I both are graduates of Lincoln University. My oldest daughter is a graduate of Spelman College, and my youngest daughter is a graduate of Howard University. So we definitely talk up HBCUs a lot. Unfortunately, some people out there, you know, they don't always hold them in high regard. But as you said, you can go to an HBCU and do whatever you want in life. And we have taught our children, we support our university, and our kids are doing the same thing, because that is so important to keep them thriving financially. So thank you again for coming today. It's just exciting to have you here. And I already texted 2 nieces that are graduating, and one wants to go to Howard. So I said, you need to get on it and get that application in December. Right. Thank you.
And I thank you so much. I knew you couldn't wait to say something, the 3 of you, because I know how you feel about HBCU, because I know how I feel about mine. So I couldn't let this go by without saying something. But I wanted to bring up the
I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Okay, y'all. I know y'all got business.
Thank you, Dr.
Sign off. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
But I did want to say this to the children. Are they still on? Just remember some of the things that Dr. Williams touched on. One of them was to be early, be punctual when you start your jobs. That is so important. Because people watch what you do, because you're going to stand out because of many reasons. And that's because of the color that you are, and you always have to be a little different. So that is so important. You always want to be the first one there. You don't want to be the first one to leave. You stay to the end. And if you have to work, I don't care if you stay 10 minutes late at your job, do it, because they do watch that and they notice that. Okay, always. Punctuality is a plus, okay? Remember that. And also he touched on the early decision, and we talked about that today too with #CAP. And I explained to you the reason why I made my early decision. So that is so important, but it's understandable if you do it whenever you do it, but early decisions do impact what happens in your life. And also I do want to just thank all of you who made this possible today. It was one of the things that I really wanted the children to hear about was our HBCUs, because a lot of them are not familiar or don't understand or don't really know about our HBCUs. And it's so important that we teach our children that, because this is where we came from. This is where our people came from. We could only go to HBCUs at one point. And then I just want to also close and say happy holidays to all the students, and we look forward to seeing you next year. But I do want to leave you with some items that are really, really endeared right now to me in heart. I want you to remember to wear your mask. It's important, okay? I also want you to wash your hands. It's important. I also want you to use your hand sanitizer. Important, okay? Wear gloves if you have to, okay? It is really serious, COVID. Social distance, okay? I have just had it to impact my family today, okay? I can't stress it enough. Social distance is important right now, okay? I'm not trying to scare you, but please, please be safe out there, okay? I want you to stay safe. Be blessed and be well, okay? I really, really want this for you, okay? And I'm gonna say goodbye and just happy holidays to each and every one of you, and God bless each and every one of you.
Okay.